today's training.
Thank you, Ollie. Good evening to all of you who are here live with us, and hello to you whatever time of day you're watching, if you're watching the recording. And we've had loads of requests for the recording this time, which is brilliant, and lots of people were trying to join us live, I know, but I know things happen, which is kind of ironic given what we're talking about this evening. It's always tricky to decide what is the best time to host these type of events, because we've all got different things on at different times. So yeah, if you are watching the recording, I know you're going to miss out on the Q&A opportunity, but do feel free to drop us an email, and we will respond to all of them personally. I'm just going to introduce myself quickly to those of you who we haven't met before, don't know me. So I'm Darren, founder and MD of Motus, and we're a health and lifestyle coaching company. So we work with people and with organisations, businesses and schools, people and organisations who want to change their lifestyles so that it can be at their best in every area of life. So as you all know, today's session is called Too Much to Do and Not Enough Time. And we're going to talk about how you can increase your energy, be more productive, and improve your health at the same time. So I'm guessing by the very fact that that Susan and any else of you who's listening or watching later signed up for this session, that is perhaps a familiar feeling. Give us a nod of the head if that might be true. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, I guess you wouldn't be here otherwise. And just to let you know, the reason that we're covering this particular topic today is because within our health coaching program M12, each month we actually have a different theme which we focus on. And this month is all about energy and productivity. So it's really tying in with that. So I've another, I guess, a kind of question for you to think on. And that is, how often do you hear yourself saying the words that, oh, I'd love to do X, Y, Z, but I just don't have time? Whether it's saying that out loud to somebody else, perhaps. Or do you hear that question go on kind of internally in your head? Do you think it? Do you think, oh, I'd really like to do X, Y, Z? Or even more strongly, that I need to do whatever it is, but we tell ourselves that we just don't have the time. So next question for you to think on. So imagine if you did have an extra hour in each day, what would you do with that hour? Feel free to drop something in the chat if you want, Susan. What would you do with your extra hour? Or the other thing we could do, Ollie, we've asked these questions to quite a few of our clients. What's some of the typical things that they say?
So when I've asked that to some clients before, I think a popular one, people always say that they kind of love to either go for a walk or do some sort of exercise. They just don't know where they can fit it in their day. So I think that's a very common one, especially with kind of the time limitations. Yeah,
I've often heard an extra hour in bed as well.
That's what I was just about to post in the chat.
Yeah, sounds quite appealing to lots of people. And often people say just some time to myself. So some time that I kind of have choice over, if you like. Be more productive at home or get out and exercise more. Brilliant. Thank you, Susan. And again, I'm going to assume, because you enrolled on this workshop this evening, that your health is really important to you, that it is a priority. And this is one of the main frustrations that we hear from clients when they join us, is that they know that they want to prioritize their health, that they want to do more when it comes to exercise, when it comes to eating healthily, to looking after themselves. but it's just a struggle to find the time with everything else that they've got going on. Okay, so the next question I want you to think on is, if there was just one thing that you could come away from this session with that would make a real difference for you, then what would it be? So what would be your one thing, Susan? You're getting a personal service this evening. What do you think some clients would say, Ollie, if I asked them that question?
I'm not on mute. If there was just one thing that they could do to,
yeah, just one thing to take away from this
out from the session.
Yeah.
I guess some practical things that they can do to help improve their health. I think they understand that they're not going to suddenly make huge changes to their health, but just what are one or two small things that they could start doing straight away in order to improve their health.
Brilliant. And thank you, Susan. Have the confidence and motivation to make the change. Yeah, a lot of people say sometimes that they know that they need to change something, need to do something different. Sometimes they even know a bit of what they need to do, but it's just that getting started. So I really hope we can help you with that tonight. Yeah, we'll do our absolute best to make sure we do that. And yeah, feel free to throw any questions in the Q&A in the chat as we go, or we can ask them in the Q&A later. And then just a reminder for everyone watching the recording, do email us with any specific questions that you've got, and we will respond to you personally. Right, before we get into the main content of the training, I would like to let you know our intentions for what we're going to deliver this evening. So firstly, many people in businesses do these type of events basically as a sales pitch. You might get a few minutes of content, and then you get 45 minutes of sales pitch, ending in a great crescendo with some incredible once-in-a-lifetime special offer that will never be beaten. And that's absolutely not how we do things at Motus. So our approach is, if we deliver something that's really useful, really good in the session this evening, provide you with an opportunity to get to know us a bit more, understand a bit more about our approach, and crucially, how that differs to most of what you've probably come across in the health and fitness industry, then you're perfectly capable of making your own decision about whether you'd like to explore opportunities to work with us or not. But later in the session, we will give you just a very little bit of information about our 30-day program, which for many people is how they begin working with us. And we'll also invite you, if you would like to find out more about working with us and how we might be able to help you with your health, to book a complimentary call with one of the team. Our second intention is to try and stimulate some thought about the idea of too much to do and not enough time. And I guess challenge the way that you might think about it currently. And if we do that, hopefully that will open up some new possibilities and new opportunities. And so thirdly, it's to deliver to everybody who's listening at least one, as a minimum, actionable strategy that you can go away and you can implement right away, something that could make a really big difference to you, to reduce that feeling of not having enough time, and give you an opportunity and something that you can do right away, so you can focus more on your health, you can feel more energetic and more productive. Right, so we're going to start by breaking this whole phrase that we've been talking about in the title, we've been talking about throughout so far. We're going to break it down into two parts: too much to do and not enough time. Two separate things. Who would like some more time? Susan, would you like some more time? You just give us a big nod if you want, or put in the chat. Yeah, you'd like some more time. People say it all the time, don't they? Oh, I'd love some more time. If only there was an hour more in the day. If only there was a few hours more, another day in the week, all this type of thing. Well, I'm afraid I am going to disappoint you straight away. Because unless you're an expert in applied quantum theory, which I'm most certainly not, then the reality is that we seem to be pretty fixed now on there being 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week, and 365 days in a year. So the reality we've got to work with is that we all have the same amount of time in which to get what we need to get done. And we can't, sadly, just magic some more time and extend the days to 26 hours, to 27 hours, to 28. And the thing is, I wouldn't mind betting that even if we did, it wouldn't make the slightest bit of difference to how we feel. I think the problems would just expand to fill whatever time was available, and then we'd want another hour and another hour and so on. It would be exactly the same. So with that in mind, we've established that really not having enough time is actually not really true, because we have what time we have. That might sound harsh, but don't worry, it actually makes things simpler. And we're going to come back to that shortly. So what I'd like to do now is take the first bit of the statement instead, the too much to do. And let's ask ourselves the same question of that. Is that true? Now, I'm not trying to be facetious at all. The truth is, I don't know. I don't have enough information about you, about your personal circumstances, to give any kind of valid opinion on whether you've got too much to do or not. We don't know. It's subjective and it's relative. But I would be interested to know, Susan, do you have too much to do? Yeah, definitely have too much to do. Okay. And the rest of you watching the recording, let's say your answer is no. First of all, we'll come back to yeses in a minute, don't worry. If the answer is no, in all honesty, you don't have too much to do, then it's about working out how to use that time better. And having too much to do and not enough time then is actually a feeling rather than a reality. And that's great, as we can then shift straight on to working out how to invest our time better to get rid of that feeling. But if the answer is yes, and I'm guessing it will be for a lot of people here, then my question is how do you know? How would you know? Again, say I don't know. It might be true, it might not be true. But I would ask then, if you think the answer is yes, when's the last time that you gathered all the information that you'd need on exactly what you have to do, when you've got to do it, and how much time you're spending on doing things, so that you can be absolutely sure about whether it's true or not? I guess the question is, when's the last time you did some kind of time audit? Which sounds incredibly boring, I know, but it's something we do with our clients, usually quarterly, and it can be very insightful. So don't worry, we're not about to ask anybody to share diaries or calendars or to-do lists or anything like that. Because even if it is true, and it absolutely will be for some of us, then ask yourself the question, what part did we play in putting those things on our to-do list, putting those things in our diaries and in our calendars? A lot of the time we've done that. I guess the point I'd like to make is that at least some of the time, the feeling of having too much to do and not enough time is just that. It's a feeling, it's a perception. or it's a situation that we've created for ourselves. And once we accept that, that actually empowers us to do something about it and to change it. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about this evening. Okay, so coming back to time again. Now this picture shows typically how time, money and energy often flows through different phases of life. We start off life as a child, we've got all the time in the world, no real concept of it. Ask a child to be there in 10 minutes, they've got no idea what that means. Then we go through the middle part of our lives where we just don't simply seem to have enough time for anything. And then towards the end, time seems to expand again. You can see the different patterns there with the little tick box scenario. But increasingly, we're seeing a slightly different pattern to that. What we're seeing instead is that actually energy isn't there in the middle part of life either. It's there at the beginning, it's not necessarily there at the end, but the time where it seems to vanish is getting earlier and earlier and earlier. You know, we're frequently seeing our clients in their 30s, 40s, 50s coming in saying, I have no energy, I need to work on my energy. And so that got us thinking, and I'd actually like you to consider the idea that often when we say we would like more time, what we might actually mean, or what we might actually benefit from more, is having more energy. On the basis that if we have more energy, we can get everything done that we need to more quickly, more effectively, and then hopefully still have time left over to do the things that we want to as well. Okay, so I've got a question for you. So Susan, if you want to type in the chat. Ollie, why don't you type in the chat as well? So on a scale of 1 to 10, so 1 being no energy at all, and 10 being you're bouncing around all day like Tigger the Tiger, give me a score out of 10 for your general energy levels over a typical week. Six or seven, 6. Okay, that's fair enough. The data that we've got from lots of groups of clients when they start working with us is typically somewhere between 6 and 6.5. So that's fairly typical. It's quite low, I think, isn't it? So the next question is, if you're 6 or 7, Susan, could be an 8 or 9, do you think the feeling of too much to do and not enough time would reduce? Give us a yes. Yeah, for sure. It definitely would. It definitely would. Which gives us something to work with. It gives us a hope that, right, if we can find things to boost our energy, then that feeling's going to go. In fact, I had a 6-month review with a client just the other day who's on our M12 coaching program, where we do a slightly more in-depth assessment for energy levels. As part of the program, we do it periodically. And from when he started 6 months ago to just recently, his score has actually gone up from 52% to 90%, which is absolutely amazing. So for him, those type of feelings of too much to do and not enough time have definitely vastly reduced. So this leaves us with the question changes. The question isn't, how do we get more time? Because we know we can't do that. But the question is, how can we have more energy? So in order to start answering that question for ourselves, we need to first of all see what is draining our energy. Susan, if you want to type in the chat, what do you find that drains your energy? Ollie, do you want to add anything in the chat that we hear from clients quite frequently about what drains them energy?
No, clients a lot of the time say that kids seem to take a lot of their energy, but I can't talk about that from experience myself.
I can, and they do, definitely. Lack of sleep and fuel for the body. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sleep's a big one. Sleep's a big one. Okay, and then conversely, let's think about the things that give us energy. Can you think of one or two things, Susan, that give you energy, make you feel energized? Being outside in the sun, yeah, it's been lovely today, actually, hasn't it? We've been very lucky. Talking about things that give us energy, this is actually often where some people become a bit unstuck, because often they might look for what might give them an energy boost in the moment. You know, it might be an afternoon, it's been a long day at work, or stuck in front of the screen and they're feeling a bit sleepy and they're looking for a pick-me-up, you know, a shot of caffeine, a sugar rush, you know, a special superfood snack, some kind of quick fix, which unfortunately will inevitably be followed by a slump. And what we need to be focusing on instead is how can we create real, sustainable, reliable and consistent energy. How can we push up that baseline, our 6 or 7? How can we make that a 7 or an 8 first of all, and then hopefully an 8 or a 9, rather than having these peaks and troughs throughout the day. Before we come on to exactly how we can create that sustainable energy, I'd like to share with you two things that you can do this evening or tomorrow that will undoubtedly help you to understand exactly where your time goes currently, and also help you to remove a few of the things off that to-do list, therefore freeing up more of your time to use to create more of this energy. So the first thing, and I've kind of mentioned this already, you know, it sounds incredibly boring, but I promise it's really, really useful, is to do a time audit. So there are various apps you can do this with, stuff you can get on your phone or stuff you can do on your desktop. You can even get things that track your activity on your computer or your phone. You can interrogate your calendar and actually look at what you've been doing. And there's always good old pen and paper to actually write down throughout the day at various points. Okay, what have I been doing? Where has my time been going? It really doesn't matter how you do it. It's just about bringing your attention to it. And it's about being conscious of it and objective and honest with ourselves. And the aim of this type of exercise isn't to say how you should or shouldn't spend your time. It's purely to gather the data so that you can make informed decisions on whether you're prioritizing your time as well as possible, and if there's any improvements that you can make. And if so, where could the changes be made? What activities are in there that are draining your energy? And how could we add more activities that are going to provide you with the energy? Now, I tend to do this exercise roughly every quarter, and every time I do it, I find things have slipped a little bit. And one thing that actually worked really well for me in the first quarter of this year was that I blocked access on my computer and on my phone to loads of websites. You know, the ones where you think you'll just go on and have a quick check, and then you end up spending 20 minutes on. Even checking the weather, and it's like, well, I can see the weather, I don't need to check that multiple times a day. So there's some very easy time savings to be made. Number two, second strategy. And this is borrowed from various different training courses and different planners that I've used over the years. And it's called the 4 Ds. Now, what you need to do to make this work for you is you need to take out your calendar, or your diary, or your to-do list, and you need to apply these to that every single day, perhaps even more than once, perhaps a couple of times a day. So what you do is you look at each task in turn, and you decide, first of all, does it really need doing? If it does, fair enough, it stays where it is. Next question, could it be deferred? i.e., is it crucial that that thing happens today, or does it not actually matter? Is it something that we'd like to get done today, but it's actually no problem if it's tomorrow or the day after or next week? If so, defer it. Take the pressure off. Next question, delegate. Who could help you with the task? Who would make the task easier, or who could you delegate it to altogether? Take it off your plate, make it someone else's responsibility. Finally, and this one is probably the most powerful by far, could you just delete it? Does it not need to be there at all? We all do things to kind of fill the time sometimes and make ourselves feel busy. There's a lot of stuff that we can just completely get rid of if it's not serving us. Okay, so coming back now to this question, which is how do we create real, sustainable, consistent and reliable energy? So what we find works for us and our clients across all of our coaching programs is what at Motus we call the fundamentals of health. There's 3 fundamentals, and they are nutrition, movement and sleep. Now, considering all the information that's out there when it comes to health and fitness and well-being, this may seem like a very simplistic view, but the reality is, in practice, if we look after those 3 things, then we'll be a long way towards creating that sustainable energy. On top of that, we're going to be more productive, and we're going to feel like we've got more time. And as an added bonus, by looking after those 3 things, we'll be doing a great job of looking after our all-round health at the same time. So quickly in the chat, Susan, and so if you're watching this as a recording, just make a note of it or make a note of it in your head. Think about currently, what is your score out of 10? How would you score yourself for nutrition? I would probably give myself an 8 at the moment, I think. Ollie's gone for an 8 as well. You got a number for us, Susan? 5 or 6. Okay. Okay, next one then. What would you score yourself out of 10 for movement or exercise? I'll probably get 8 for myself on here again at the moment. Pretty good, but probably still some room for improvement. Ollie 5, Susan 7 or 8. That's good. And then finally, sleep. What's your score out of 10 for sleep? I have to mark myself down here. I think I'm going to go 6. Ollie's a 6. Susan 4 or 5. Okay. Thank you for that. And people often think that they have to make really dramatic changes when it comes to any of those areas of the fundamentals, nutrition, movement or sleep. Well, I can tell you that is absolutely not true. And you can make really big differences with seemingly small changes. So the next question to ask yourself, if you're watching this recording, is not, how can you make 10 out of 10? The question you need to ask yourself is, how can you move any one of those scores up by just half a point to a point? What small things can you do to move them up by half a point to a point? Ollie, what would you say is a top tip to move nutrition up for people Generally for clients, this is by half a point to a point.
I'd say start the day right when it comes to nutrition. Often people might not have breakfast or don't have something that's full enough for long enough. So trying to have kind of, I guess we call it a protein-based breakfast, something that's going to keep you fuller for longer and almost help you feel energized from the start of the day, really, because a lot of the time we might have something in a rush, and then before you know it, our energy is straight away. So start the day right.
Yeah, top tip, definitely, for sure. Also, a protein-based breakfast, I think I find myself and with clients, it just makes it easier to make better decisions later on. So yeah, great point. So when it comes to exercise, I think I would say top tip, I'm going to give two actually, and we'll probably come back to this later. Number one, I'd say, is have appointments, whether that's appointments that you've personally put in your diary, or whether it's an appointment that you've made with someone else, whether that's a coach, whether it's a friend, it doesn't matter, having some kind of commitment. Second one, I would say, is just do a little bit. Again, people often think you have to do loads and loads and loads of exercise, but you just have to start with a little bit. What would you say is number one tip to move sleep up half a point, Ollie? This could be a good one for Susan, hopefully.
I think it could be a good one for myself as well. I always find myself go to bed I guess just 10-15 minutes earlier is the first thing that sprung to mind. I guess for me, if I wanted to increase the duration of my sleep, and I guess in terms of increasing quality or how good my sleep is, in the evenings I probably tend to spend too much time looking at screens, so I think I could reduce that earlier.
Okay. Susan, entirely up to you. You can either give us a nod or a shake. If you want to switch your mic on and we can talk about sleep a little bit, entirely up to you. You've popped in the chat, have a routine, go to bed at the same time every night. Brilliant. But yeah, if that's what you find makes a difference, absolutely. Routine's super important with sleep. Okay, I think another key point to get across here is that in lots of these things, they're seemingly small changes, but they can be habits that you repeat day after day after day. So it's not like some secret tactic, I said, that works at 3 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon when you're feeling exhausted, your inbox is overflowing. Again, it's something that you can practice day in, day out. And so the benefit of that to your, not only to your energy, but also to your health as well, compounds over time. That's another misconception here, is that making these changes is actually going to take a huge amount of time, which of course is going to be a bit of a blocker in our mind if we're already in a position of feeling overwhelmed or feeling like we haven't got enough of it. So let me now show you a quick illustration of why this might not be the case. So again, we know from some of our work with clients, particularly businesses, also one-to-one, that it is more than possible to get at least a 20% uplift in productivity. That really is a minimum if you get the fundamentals nailed down and get them all increased by half to 1 point. So using that assumption, and remember, an uplift of 20% is definitely on the low side. It's definitely only on the side of caution. Let's suppose, and using a start point of 8 hours a week at 70% productivity, if we uplifted that to 90%, you'd get the same amount of work done, but it would take 96 minutes less. So even if, in order to get those fundamentals on point, you decided to dedicate an extra 30 minutes to have a healthy lunch and a bit of a break, 30 minutes to do some exercise. And in fact, if you took a 30-minute nap, which might sound crazy, but home working definitely has some benefits, you would still get all of that work done and all of those activities within that original 8 hours. So the net result would be no extra time, and in fact a spare 6 minutes to check your social media if you like doing that type of thing. Okay, I'm going to very briefly now tell you about our 30-day coaching program. So if any of what we're talking about resonates with you, then you will want to stay and listen. It's only going to take a couple of minutes. And if not, you've just about got time to go and get yourself a drink before we finish off this evening's training. Perhaps you're thinking, this is all well and good, Darren, and perhaps you know some of it already. I'm sure you do. But it's one thing knowing it, and it's quite another thing actually doing it and getting started and doing it consistently. And also even knowing exactly where to start and what the first step should be. And that really is where our 30-day program comes in. It's for people who are ready to make a change and ready to prioritize their health. So when you enroll, you'll work one-to-one with one of our coaches. It's not one of these download DIY plans at all. And over the 30 days of the program, we'll work with you to build a simple, personalized, long-term, step-by-step action plan and work out exactly what it is that you need to do to improve your health and get the results that you want. And we'll also start actually implementing that plan as we go along. And as your coaches, we'll be here to support you and make sure it happens. So as promised, there's no big sales pitch here. There's no fake, there's only 3 places remaining, anything like that. It's £197. And if you'd like to find out more, no obligation, then there's a link going in the chat. So you can book a consultation with one of the team and ask any questions that you may have. If you're watching the recording, by the way, we will email you the link so you can do that as well. All right, so we are moving towards the end of the session now. So what I'm going to share with you next is a whole series of tips for things that you can do to improve your health that aren't going to take any more time, and also some ways to organize certain activities that are actually going to save you time. So another way of thinking about these tips is things that will help you get even better results in less time. We've actually got 17 tips in total. So you might want a bit of paper and a pen, a notepad, something like that. I'm going to run through these quite quickly because we haven't got a huge amount of time left. So here goes. Right. Firstly, when it comes to nutrition, the thing about nutrition and time is that we need to eat anyway. So eating better and more healthily needn't take you any longer at all, really. Some of the best ways to make this happen are as follows. Plan in advance what you're going to eat. Yeah, you will have to invest a little bit more time making that plan, a little bit more time up front, but you will save all of that decision making about what to eat for each and every meal for the rest of the week. We spend a colossal amount of time deciding what to do that on a daily basis. So you will save time and you will save that energy. Similarly, shop in advance according to your plan. Again, no more wandering around going, what should I buy? What should I have for tea tonight? No more popping out, wasting half an hour trying to decide what you're going to eat. Number 3, batch cook. Cook loads of food when you have the chance, so it's ready and there and waiting when you need it. Again, takes that decision making out, and it just doesn't take twice as long to cook twice as much. Number 4, really, really simple. Drink more water. And I know it's very simple, but being hydrated is a surefire way to boost your energy, and it's something that's really easy to forget. So do what you need to do to remind yourself, whether it's leaving water bottles out, whether it's setting reminders, whatever it needs to be. When it comes to exercise, the same things go for exercise as go for nutrition when it comes to planning ahead. If you start off by putting some time aside in your diary, whether it's leaving it clear so you've got the opportunity to go for a walk, or whether it's planning in a specific session, making an appointment to do something, it's an extra level of commitment rather than just hoping that you'll find time at some point during the week. If you're then thinking about what exercise you should actually do, well, a couple of scenarios here. If you're not exercising at all, then of course, whatever you start doing is going to be a step forward. So that's brilliant. If you are exercising already, but for you, it's more about how to optimize your time and how to get more from less time, perhaps, then something to consider is to spend more of your time focusing on strength or resistance training, because that is the most efficient way to deliver the greatest all-round benefits and results in the shortest period of time. Number 7, if we're thinking about exercise as a strategy to boost your energy and productivity, as well as your general health and well-being, then go for shorter but more frequent sessions. It doesn't have to be an hour. For some reason, we all seem to be programmed that blocks of time are hours. And so we think that exercise has to be an hour too. Well, it just doesn't. Even just a few minutes is a good start, and it is enough to energize us and make us feel a bit better. And again, if you're a regular exerciser already, but you're looking to optimize that, then you can still get a really good session in 30 minutes just by being a bit smarter about how it's built. On to sleep now. So we've covered some of these already, but I'm going to refresh them again. Get up earlier and go to bed earlier. Couldn't be simpler than that. But for some people, and the reason why I mention it, is that the way to get yourself to go to bed earlier is actually to get up earlier, which will then ensure that you're a bit more tired when it comes to evening the next night. Also, again, something we see quite often when we start working with clients is that the last couple of hours in the day are often not particularly beneficial when it comes to our health or particularly productive. So take the decision to prioritize your sleep instead. Ollie's already mentioned this as well. I'm thinking as much about planning now as well as specific nutrition recommendations. And that's about starting the day right. Give yourself the time that you need to do what you need to do. For example, and this is an example from a family household, if it takes 90 minutes to get everyone up, to get breakfast done, to get everyone ready, to get out the door, to go to school or to go to work or whatever, get up 2 hours before you need to leave, not an hour and a quarter. And this will have a massive impact on the way you feel for the rest of the day and a knock-on effect. If you start the day putting yourself under pressure, you're creating that feeling of not having enough time. Number 11, do things that tend to get pushed out of your diary, like exercise, the classic one. Do them earlier in the day, so there's less chance of that happening. Okay, so the next set, we've got 6 more. These are a set of tips which we call doubling up, which simply means combining or linking 2 activities, which of course saves you time overall. And here are some examples. I'm sure you can probably think of a few more. So could you do some stretching whilst you're watching TV? Could you do some stretching or exercising during any dead time as well? Time where you're kind of waiting around for something to happen. This is a good one. I have a client who lost a significant amount of weight in the first lockdown doing this. Walk and talk when you're on the phone. If you spend a lot of time on the phone or on calls, pick out which of those you don't need to be in front of a screen for, take them on your phone and walk around at the same time. Next one, personal development in the car. So I'm talking about audiobooks or podcasts, something like that. Something, you know, things that we like doing perhaps, but get pushed out, get squeezed out. How could you do those at the same time as doing something else? Next one is a standing desk. And that's just about being more active, using more muscles whilst you're doing work. Last one is making exercise some kind of social event. So rather than going for a drink for a friend, rather than meeting at a cafe or something like that, why not go for a walk? Why not, excuse me, why not organise an activity? There are lots of different things you could do so that you're being active at the same time as meeting up and being sociable. Okay, so the last suggestion or recommendation I'd like to make today is, it's nothing to do with trampolining, is that in order to create this real energy and to lose these feelings of having too much to do and not enough time, is that fundamentally we need to change our mindset when it comes to our health, when it comes to how we plan our days and our weeks. And too often I see people for whom their health is the first thing that gets pushed out of their diary. And I've been there and I've done it myself and felt the consequences of it, and it's not good. It's very easy to get into a place where you only fit in exercise when you have time. It's a kind of last thought, or you just don't bother at all because you think, oh, I've only got a few minutes, it's not worth it. It's very easy to get into that place of not planning our food, and as a result ending up making unhealthy choices, grabbing whatever's convenient, grabbing whatever draws us when we're in the shops when we're hungry. It's very easy to get into a place where we compromise our sleep and we stay up watching Netflix or stay up scrolling on the internet, on our phones, on social media or whatever. But if you've had enough of that and you want to put an end to feeling like there's too much to do and not enough time, if you want to put an end to that feeling like you haven't got enough energy, if you want to be more productive and you want to improve your health, you've got to flip all that thinking completely on its head. And it needs to become one of the very first things that goes into the diary, a true priority, something that doesn't get bumped out unless it really, really has to. You know, again, I'm sure health is a priority for you by the very fact that you're here and you're listening to this, this workshop. So as of right now, let's make it a conscious decision to really prioritize your health. Think of it as an investment, not only financially, think of it as an investment in time and energy. And do it in the knowledge that by investing that time in your health, you will actually save time. You will have more energy, you'll be more productive, and at the same time, you'll be fitter and healthier overall. Right, so to finish up, here's the summary. Here's the 5 key take-home points from the session to help you lose that feeling. Number 1, do a time audit. Find out what you're actually doing with your time right now. Where does it go? How do you spend your time? How do you prioritize it? Number 2, use the 4 Ds when looking at your calendar and your to-do list, when you're looking at how you do spend your time. Number 3, double up. We've just been through a few suggestions for that. How can you double up and save some time? Number 4, take this opportunity now to consciously choose how you invest your time. And number 5, know that you will have real, sustainable energy by prioritizing your health. Not just energy that's flash in the pan for a few minutes here and there. You're going to move that level up 1 to 2 points easily. Right, so that's us through the content. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. We would have a Q&A now. Susan, give us a nod if you've got any more questions. No, all good. We do have a couple that people sent in advance. Have you got those, Ollie?
I do have those, Darren. So I'll try and go through them. For some of them, again, there isn't kind of that much context, so I guess we'll just have to kind of answer the questions as they've been given to us. So the first question is, I struggle to get motivated and I struggle to fit it in around my busy life. So that was when they were asked kind of what they'd like to get out of the workshop. I think it was, I guess the question is how can they find that motivation?
Motivation to get started.
Yeah.
Okay. What I would say on motivation to get started to anybody is to start small. Go back to thinking about how can you move your score out of 10 for nutrition, for movement, and for sleep up by half a point. Again, people often think, oh, I have to make these great, big, huge, dramatic, drastic changes. And that is just absolutely not the case. Start small and make it something that's really quite easy, that you're really sure you can do. And just by doing it and doing it repeatedly, you're starting to build up a habit of being successful. And then you take the next step. Okay, right, okay, I'm up half a point now. How can I move it up another half point? So yeah, in summary, is start small and build momentum that way.
Great. Next question, you touched on a little bit, so it might be going over those points again. How can I best organise my day and fit in food prep and exercise?
Okay, right. Again, I don't know what's going on in this person's day, so I'm just going to make some broad assumptions there. In terms of food prep, my suggestion then is to do as much as possible probably at the weekend. What we tend to do is cook loads and loads of stuff on a Sunday, and typically that might last us until Wednesday or Thursday. So it gets us through most of the working week. So we literally just got food there that we can grab, or we can put in the oven to reheat and is ready. So minimal extra time and effort. And then we're towards the end of the week, so we don't have to do that much more cooking or preparation. I know other people who quite successfully cook every evening, but then deliberately cook 2 or 3 portions in the evening and use those for lunches the next day. And then again, if they've got any additional leftovers, stick it in the freezer. So you've always got something to hand for those moments, which do happen, where your organisation lets you down, or you run out of food, or whatever. You've always got something there. So yeah, either I would say in terms of prep, huge batch cook at the weekend. So again, it doesn't take that much longer to cook really large portions of certain dishes, or cook 3 portions, say, or 2 extra portions, should you say, of something in the evening, so you've got stuff for the next day. What was the other part of the question, Ollie?
How to best organise my day to fit in the food prep, which I think you touched on, and also the exercise, but that actually links with the next question, so I'll ask that now as well. And that is kind of how can I fit in the 10,000 steps a day when I'm driving the kids around all the time? So I guess it's around fitting in more exercise in the day.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Again, if you've got children, and particularly, you know, I've got friends. In fact, we've got friends. I have. We've got children who are at different schools, so it does take a bit of time to do the school run, and they're not within walking distance at all. So that's not an option. So I'm going to assume that's the case for this person as well. So I guess what I would say is, what other opportunities are there in a day where you could walk, or you could walk a little bit more? So this is classic one that's been around for years. Like, say if you go to the shops, park at the other side of the car park, park a little bit further away, park in a different car park, so you have to walk a little bit further. So the total extra time to do that will not be that much. Second one, I would say, in that kind of scenario, again, this is with no information about this person's lifestyle otherwise, is what could you do, again, to double up and make it some kind of activity that involves the children? So is there an opportunity after school at some point to do something that involves either walking with the children, or perhaps they scooter or bike, something like that? And then thirdly would be back to one we covered earlier, which was any social things. Can you switch those from coffees, lunches, etc.? Can you make them walks, something like that?
Great. So just one more question, Ellen, now. And that question is, how long should I kind of maximally train or exercise for, kind of in the day?
How long should I maximally exercise for in the day? Again, difficult to answer without much context, but I'm guessing by the wording of the question, this is probably somebody who exercises quite a lot already. How long should I work out for max efficiency, but also time? Okay, let's say this is somebody who exercises quite a lot, who is pretty fit. I would look at two things. I would look at one, in any one session, if that's your main exercise session, cap it at 45 minutes. And rather than trying to increase that and make it longer, try and get more done in that 45 minutes. So you're increasing the intensity. But then secondly, again, to work on all-round health and fitness, then I would say track somehow your all-round activity levels for the day and try and build in as much general physical activity throughout the day outside of that exercise session. So you're kind of covering both bases there.
Fantastic.
Brilliant. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Susan, and thank you if you're watching the recording. We're going to wrap up there now. If you do have any questions yourself, then do feel free to email us. You should have our email addresses. And yeah, I hope you've taken away something useful from the session, something that you can use. And we'd love to hear how you're getting on with implementing it. Do just drop us a note again. We'd love to hear from you. And final reminder, if you want to find out more about working with us one-to-one, then book in a strategy call with one of the team. Links in the chat, or you'll have it in your inbox. Thanks again, and we look forward to seeing you all again soon.